Welcome to the Big Picture Retirement Show, where you'll learn what it really takes to have a successful retirement. With over 20 years of experience, your host, Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has seen it all and is here to help you achieve your retirement dreams. This is the Big Picture Retirement Show.
Well, hello. Once again, everyone. You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Also, I want to thank everyone for the calls that you've been calling into this show on and giving us your feedback and your input on the show. We much appreciate it. And we want those calls to still continue to come in. Any feedback you do have or any suggestions you do have for the show, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We really do appreciate the feedback. That way, each and every week, we can talk about things that are important to all of you, as opposed to a bunch of things you could care less about. So I have something in general I want to discuss with everyone. But before I do that, please jot down our toll-free number, 800-700-1980. Because if you have any questions about any of the topics that I'm talking about on the show, or maybe you have some questions about some things I haven't had a chance to talk about on the show. Maybe you have a question about your own personal situation when it comes to your own retirement planning. Feel free to give us a call. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And be happy to even to talk with you over the phone about, or maybe even do a Zoom meeting with you and discuss with you specific questions you have about your situation, whether it's pensions, whether it's your investments, taxes, and I'm sure the list goes on and on. But again, give us a call, and it costs you nothing. It's toll free, 800-700-1980, and we'd be happy to do that for the radio listeners that tune into our show. Now, of course, we have a website called safeguardinvestment.com. That's the name of our firm, Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Our website address is safeguardinvestment.com. So there's a lot of good information on the website as well. And if you care to sign up for any of our webinars that we're currently running each and every week, you can do that right from the comfort of your own home. You can sign up for the webinar and you will be sent a link where you can log on and watch one of our webinars live. And there's a lot of good information on it. A lot of the information is the information that we cover in our workshops, and a lot of good information is on there. It costs you nothing to attend. You just do need to RSVP because they do fill up quickly. Anyway, again, toll-free number 800-700-1980. And I want to talk about something I get a question on. Let me put it this way. I want to kind of discuss why it's important for you to at least consider establishing a relationship with a good advisor, a fiduciary, specifically a fiduciary, or at least getting a second opinion by a fiduciary. Because here's the thing that I see, and I'm going to give you some examples and some scenarios that maybe you can relate to or maybe see yourself in. I get calls, my partners get calls all the time, and people will ask us, for example, hey, Rick, I feel like I'm doing really good on my investment planning. I'm investing my own money and I'm doing real well in the stock market and things are good. So I'm good in that area. But where I really need advice is when it comes to taxes. Is there anything I can do in order to reduce taxes? And that's the question. And, here's the thing. If I don't have a relationship with someone and I'm trying to give advice, it's very difficult to do that when, let's face it, folks, we know there's so many different scenarios, so many different situations. And how can I give somebody tax advice if I don't know what their specific situation is? So it takes time to get to know someone, ask the appropriate questions, figure out their goals, what their objectives are, what they're trying to achieve. And then that way, by doing a proper, let's call it diagnosis, or review, then the advice can be much better, because now we can say, hey, listen, based upon your specific situation, here are some things that can immediately potentially help your taxes. But while we're at it, here are some things that we've noticed that you can do to enhance some other areas going forward. Because otherwise, if you're just, what's going to end up happening is, if you just get in a quick discussion with somebody, all they can do is just give you some general information. Kind of like on the radio show. We got 30 minutes, talk about general topics, but at the end of the day, you really can't base what you do on general information. You need to actually sit down with someone and see if this information actually fits in your particular scenario. Because, somebody, a gentleman like that giving me a call on the phone can say, hey, Rick, I just want to reduce my taxes. I'm great. I feel like I got my investments handled, but I just want to reduce my taxes. I don't know what he's doing right now or not doing to currently saving taxes, but I can say, I think a great way, what you can do in order to reduce your taxes is, really control the cost basis on your stocks, and, put some more money into a 401k plan, or, and start throwing things out there that, once again, anybody can look up on, Google it or look it up on research on the computer, and you're going to get a lot of general information out there. And maybe some of these things you're already doing, and maybe some of these things you're not doing. And maybe the things that you are doing, maybe you're not doing them as efficiently as possible. So without actually sitting down with a professional and giving them the opportunity to totally diagnose your situation, getting advice based on general rules of thumb are not going to help you in the long run. Because you could have the best investment in the world, making you 10 or 15% every day, whatever it is, whatever. And again, somebody might tell me, hey, Rick, I'm doing great on my investments. I don't know what that means to you. What does I'm doing great on my investments, what does that mean? I have no idea. But anyway, because again, your idea of doing great on the investments might be completely different than somebody else's idea. Or, is it really achieving your goals? But anyway, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is, what good are, you can have the best investment in the world, making you 10 or 15% every day, but what good is it if you are losing half of those returns to taxes? You're just making Uncle Sam happy. Then we're not doing it efficiently. What good is it if you don't have your trust and will planning in place? You were thinking about taxes, you were focused all in this area, and we didn't think about the trust and will planning. So now maybe some of you out there have a special needs situation with one of the children. And because you actually never sat down with someone to actually review and diagnose your whole situation, we were so focused on the investments, or so focused on making that X percentage rate of return on the investments, that now we find out that we're neglecting one of the children that might have a special needs situation, and there's money we could leave to that child in a much more tax efficient manner without affecting the government subsidies that they're going to be receiving. So, so the money you're making in the market, you're making it in one hand and you're losing it on the other. Or, you're not doing, let's say, for example, Roth conversion strategies that can help you later on. I can't tell you how many people tell me, hey, Rick, you know what? Next year or 2 years from now, I'm going to be forced to take RMDs out of my investments, required minimum distributions from my IRAs and 401ks. What can I do to minimize taxes on these things? Well, you know what? Because you waited so long to do your planning, you closed the window on a lot of other options. There may be some things you can do now, but there were a lot of other options that were available 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago that you could have done it in a much more efficient way. Matter of fact, not only in a much more efficient way that would save you taxes on those RMD distributions, but do it in a way that would also save you money on your Social Security income. So not only are you saving it on the RMD, but you're also saving on Social Security, and possibly saving it on your pensions, minimizing the taxation on your pensions as well. Because you never sat down, had a relationship, or never thought about getting a second opinion. When we come back, I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to continue this discussion because I want to give you some different examples of scenarios that and some pitfalls that you may want to avoid. With that being said, we'll take a quick break, and I'll see you right back.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. For more information about Rick and the Safeguard Investment Advisory Group team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for an upcoming seminar. That's safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
And we're back, and I just want to thank you for, again, tuning in to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. And right now, what we've been talking about, if you're just tuning in, is at least considering sitting down with an advisor and establishing a relationship with an advisor and why it's so important, or at least getting a second opinion. And to follow along with that topic, what I was saying was, hey, listen, you could have the best investment in the world, but what good is that investment if we're losing 10 or 15% to taxes? How easy is it to make that same 10 or 15% in the market? So there's many times where people lose sight of some of the big picture stuff that we talk about on the radio show. We're so focused on the investments, which of course we have to be. I mean, it's important, but then we lose sight. Hey, do I have my long-term care planning in order? What if, God forbid, something happens to me? All the money I'm making in the market is just going to go to long-term care and healthcare costs because I didn't do proper planning. Or what if, God forbid, one spouse predeceases the other and now half the pension is gone and half the Social Security is gone? And how am I going to make up for that shortfall? I didn't have a plan for that. Or I was so concentrated on picking the right stocks and the optimum allocation on my investments all these years that I lost sight of how to minimize taxes on my Social Security or my pensions, or maybe doing Roth conversions, or my trust and will planning isn't in order. Or I'm getting my pensions, but I didn't implement proper strategies to maximize those pensions or to eke out every dollar out of Social Security. Folks, if you have questions about any of these things, or maybe you have questions outside of the topics that I'm talking about here today, feel free to give me a call, 800-700-1980. Be happy to schedule a phone call, or nowadays we can even do Zoom meeting where you can ask me some questions. I'm happy to, if you want a second opinion. You might say, well, Rick, I'm working with the current advisor right now. That's fine. We'll be happy to give you a second opinion. Maybe you're working with the current advisor and you just want to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And well, you work so hard for your money. You work so hard doing what you do every day. Maybe it's worth just getting a second opinion. If you want that second opinion and you want to make sure no stone goes unturned in your investment planning, your retirement planning. Maybe you're like, hey, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I just want to make sure that everything's working on all cylinders in terms of my goals or my objectives. There could be a possibility. Ask yourself, is there a possibility you could be missing something? And missing something that could potentially cost you tens of thousands of dollars over the years. You don't want to find out, a year before you retire, or maybe a year or two before you're forced to take distributions out of your IRA or 401k, that there are some strategies you could have implemented in order to minimize those taxes and put more money in your pocket. Some strategies you could have used in order to minimize fees, which puts more money in your pocket. Some strategies you could have used in order to maximize what you leave to your children and your loved ones. If God forbid something should happen and you need to make sure some of those loved ones are going to be taken care of. Now you might be in a situation where you're like, Rick, I'm really not worried about that. My kids are fine. But at the end of the day, if you're going to leave it to somebody, I'm sure you'd rather leave it to your family than, leaving it all to the government. And some people, maybe they don't have any children. They're like, hey, you know what? I want to leave something to my favorite charity or foundation, or I want to start a foundation. So if you want help with any of these things. Or maybe some of you work for Kaiser. Maybe you work for the electric company. Maybe you work for the phone company, AT&T. You got great pensions. You got good 401k plans. And you're a teacher. You got a great 403b and all the rest of it. Maybe you get CalPERS, CalSTRS. And you're like, you know what? I want to talk to somebody that actually knows about these specific programs and that can help me maximize these things. Because not all pensions work the same. Not all 401k plans. From one company to another, you're going to have different plans. You're going to have different options. So not all 401ks work alike, so to speak. Every company sets them up just a little bit differently. So a good advisor can sit down with you, review these things, and pinpoint areas that you can do to enhance. And if you have a relationship with an advisor, and if you get to the point where you can build trust with this individual and you feel comfortable with them and you're comfortable in their expertise, then even better, because the more they get to know you, the more they're able to build a relationship with you over time, the better their advice is going to be. My clients that I've been dealing with for many years, I understand the dynamics of their family, dynamics of their situation, their goals, their objectives, their risk tolerance, income, expenses. And that allows my advice to be even that much better. Rather than hitting them with a bunch of general information that may or may not pertain to them, I can sit down with them and actually pinpoint advice and make it bullseye accurate. If you're looking for someone to do that for you, or maybe you just want to interview for a second opinion, give me a call right now, 800-700-1980. You can also reach us on the web at safeguardinvestment.com. We can set up a phone call. We can do a Zoom meeting, and I'll give you an hour of my time. No cost, no obligation, just an opportunity. We'll have a conversation, maybe answer some of the questions, and in that hour, I'll get to know you a little bit better, and I might be able to pinpoint some things that you might be able to do in order to enhance what you've already been able to accomplish when it comes to your retirement planning. And especially if you're a teacher, you want to give me a call. You have certain, obviously, benefits that a lot of people, working in the private sector don't have. You're very fortunate. Or some of you working for Kaiser, you got benefit plans that, again, unfortunately, a lot of people working in, for private companies just don't have. And and because you're in such a fortunate situation, you want to be able to maximize those things as much as possible to your benefit. Just like with your taxes. Many of my clients say, hey, listen, Rick, I don't mind paying my fair share in taxes. I just don't want to be paying more than my fair share. So if there's things that I'm entitled to take advantage, I want to know about that. When was the last time you sent in your tax return to the IRS and they called you up and said, hey, listen, you know what? We're noticing there's a few tax strategies you're not employing in your particular situation. Here's what you need to do. And by the way, you sent us too much money. Here you go. Here's some money back. I don't think too many of you got that call. So since they don't do that, it's up to us to get that information. So how are you going to do it? You can't be afraid to make that first step. Don't be afraid to give us a call toll free, 800-700-1980. And what we'll do, or what I'll do for you personally, is review your pensions, review your investment planning, review your goals, your objectives. There's some key questions that I'll be able to ask you in order to get the proper information I need in order to give you a proper analysis. And who knows, maybe you call us up and we'll say, hey, listen, the way you got everything set up, it's perfect. There's nothing else for you to do. You're doing everything is perfectly in line. Wouldn't that be a good feeling? Knowing, hey, you know what? I got everything set up perfectly. And if there is an area or two that can be enhanced or improved upon, wouldn't you like to at least know that? And then maybe decide, you know what? Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe that's something I'd want to implement in order to enhance. Or maybe, you know what? It's not that important to me. No big deal. But at least you're made aware of it. And then you and your spouse can decide if it's something that you want to implement. So if you want to take advantage of that consultation, give me a call now, 800-700-1980. 1980. Again, that toll-free number is 800-700-1980. Staff is standing by, and we can set up either a phone conference or a Zoom meeting, whatever is more convenient for you. With that being said, that brings me to a close to the show. But remember, general information is not going to do you any good. There's a lot of things out there that's sounds great, but you need to understand how it's going to work specifically for you. And you don't want to be caught blindsided. You don't want to be caught so focused in one area. Oh, Rick, I'm doing great on the investments. I'm doing great on my savings. I'm doing great here. And yeah, you are doing great in that area, but then you lose complete sight of other areas that are totally going to overtake what you're doing in the investment side, because the trust and will planning, like I said earlier, isn't done. Or maybe you're not maximizing Social Security, which may cost you thousands and thousands of dollars down the road. Or you're not maximizing your pensions that you're getting from Kaiser, or maybe from the phone company or electric company. Or maybe, you're not maximizing CalPERS or CalSTRS, or your 403B plan, or your TSP. Or maybe you have medical concerns that, hey, there's ways to plan for your, potentially medical issues, long-term care, without purchasing traditional long-term care insurance that could potentially save you tens of thousands of dollars, so you don't have to spend down your assets. So there's so many different areas that need to be looked at. So let's not get too focused in one area and then lose sight of everything else. If you care to take advantage of that, again, just give us a call, toll free, 800-700-1980. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. Again, you're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the show, but I'm looking forward to talking to you all next week. And again, don't hesitate to give us a call. We'd love to hear your suggestions and what topics you'd like me to cover on the show. We appreciate that as well. Again, toll-free number 800-700-1980. You can also reach us on the web at safeguardinvestment.com. And of course, you can sign up for our webinars through our website as well. Have a great day.
Firm offers insurance services. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is a registered investment advisory firm. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC. This radio show is a paid placement.